Zan, I think we should just go ahead and start. I think we should just
Really?
start recording.
I think we should think about it some more. Do the thinking thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. What should we
Thinking.
talk about today?
I'm completely out of material.
You are.
Mhm.
So we know everything there is to know about you. There's nothing that Adam Asher is holding back on.
I did not say I was out of secrets. I said I was out of
Oh, okay.
material. Hey,
Okay.
but you know what? There's
Yeah.
this.
What? Yeah, no fireworks. I'm not impressed. I like the fireworks.
That was for the 25th episode.
I think I should get fireworks every week.
But that right there, with people coming around like this art gallery and just staring at Wander to the Edge, that's how I feel on a normal Saturday. I feel like
people are just staring at you.
Staring at me, and I'm doing nothing of importance. I'm just there.
They're just admiring you as a work of art right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody to Wander to the Edge. My name is Adam Asher, and I hope you know me. But if you don't, you need to go to theedgeofadventure.com. That's my platform, adventure and travel platform. And it's great to be here today.
I'm Zan. I'm from Where Gals Wander. My platform is all about asking the question, is there more to life? And today we have an awesome guest.
We do.
We do.
We do. Someone who likes to explore, right?
Yes.
Someone whose name is Becky.
Yes.
And also, and this is the part that's really cool, she is, I'm in Atlanta, you're in LA, and she is a long way from both of those places. So she's joining us today from Hong Kong. So I think without further ado, we should just welcome her to the program, get to know Becky from BeckyExploring.com. She's up next right here on
Wander to the Edge.
Hey, Becky, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Zan. Thanks for having me.
Happy to. First, I have to ask, am I the only one that dances to the music when it cuts to the credits? Am I the only one out there that does a little dance, or is there anybody else out there? I'm just curious.
What kind of dance is
it? To me, it is catchy.
Yeah.
And if I'm at least dancing on the inside. Becky, thanks for joining us, Becky. It is great to get to know you a little bit better and also share that with the audience. Let's start with the big question here. Where are you? You're a long way from home.
I am. I'm in Hong Kong, and I've lived here now for 3 years. I just had my 3-year anniversary of moving to Hong Kong. So yeah, we're 13 hours ahead of East Coast time, which changed with daylight savings, because we don't do daylight savings over here. So when the US does, we're 12 hours, which makes it a little easier to remember for me calling back to my parents on the East Coast.
I always wonder, because when I moved out here to LA from Chicago, it was like a 2-hour difference, right? And with Adam being on the East Coast, it's a 3-hour difference. So I was trying to do the math and make sure that everything lines up okay. And there's so many people that you just find you lose, you don't stay in touch with, because it's just too much of a pain trying to align schedules and getting everything set up. I can't imagine trying to calculate a 13-hour difference. I mean, has that really impacted some of your relationships from back home?
Not too much, I would say. Luckily, there is a window in the evening and then in the morning when we can talk, and it works out pretty well. So we still, and of course, having WhatsApp and Zoom and Skype and all these different options is just, it's really nice and keeps me in touch with people. And now everybody is mostly remote and is really on these platforms a lot more than when I first moved here, just because of coronavirus and how it's worked out with work and such. So also people are a lot more eager to talk. And so that's been, I guess, a silver lining of the whole situation.
Well, we never like these conversations to center around COVID because it's
No.
such a thing, right? But we do have, let's go ahead and get it out of the way. Have you been yeah, have you been able to travel? Have you been back to the States, or have you been over there this entire year?
Well, it's kind of funny because I was coronavirus kind of started here in February, and so we were dealing with the lack of toilet paper and grocery stores running out of things in February, and then I had a trip planned to the U.S. in March, so I went back to the U.S. I had to change my flight because it got canceled originally, and changed it, and I made it to my parents' house. They live in Florida, and so I was there actually as the wave kind of hit the US and things started closing. And so then I almost got stuck, I guess, because my flight got canceled. I was on American Airlines and they said, we don't have anything back to Hong Kong until June. And I went, well, that's not going to work for me. So, yeah, but they canceled, I guess, all the code share flights. And so I booked a one-way ticket on Cathay and I made it back to Hong Kong and had to quarantine for 2 weeks in my apartment with a wristband and all of that. And so it was quite an adventure and I'm glad I made it back. Yeah.
I think these times are definitely redefining what an adventure is, just in
Yes.
this day and age. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So normally, what would you define as being an adventure for you, Becky?
Oh my. Normally I think public transportation. Honestly, that's there's always an adventure in it, and things like taking a local bus in Thailand, and the people that get on, and the kind of crazy things that happen, like the chickens beside you, or just the way that they throw the luggage on the roof and your suitcase may arrive wet, or you're going down a road and you have the windows open and all of a sudden you're covered in dust when you arrive in your destination, and just some of the things that happen along the way. The bus might break down and you'll be on the side of the road and find that there's actually a delicious meal waiting for you on the side of the road that you didn't expect. And there's always a story when you take public transportation.
Okay, I'll let you have that. However, you also scuba dive, and you've done this
Yes.
thing where you're scuba diving with sharks, so
Yes.
you're not gonna get off the hook that easily.
Yes. Well, yeah, the scuba diving is that's been one of my biggest adventures, I would say, especially because I was terrified to do it. I always said to my husband, I'll never scuba dive because I'm afraid of sharks, and I'm also afraid of getting down there and not being able to breathe and all of that. And somehow he convinced me to do it. I think it was because we were going to Borneo and it just seemed like the right thing to do. And so we took lessons and we got certified, and I'm so glad that I did it, honestly. And I think if I can do it, most people should be able to do it. I did have a lot of anxiety around it, and so conquering that for me was great. In addition to then now being able to go on these adventures like diving with sharks, which is another thing that when we got there, I said I'm not doing that dive. But by the end of the vacation, there I was with the sharks.
So when you say there you were with the sharks, like take us there. Like how far, how many, like paint the picture for us.
Okay. So there's Malapascua Island in the Philippines is kind of known for having thresher sharks. And because there's this Monad Shoal that is about a half an hour boat ride from the island. And so you are pretty much guaranteed sightings because the sharks come in the morning, every morning, to clean themselves. And so they you go down to this ledge that's on the bottom, and then you just watch them, and they swim by you. There were, I think, 3 or 4 the day that we were there. And so you hold on to a rope at the bottom, and you just sort of sit and watch them go by. You don't really interact with them, but you do get to see them, and they come rather close. I think there was one that came within a few meters, but they're doing their thing. We're just sitting there watching, but it's a little surreal because it's sort of the experience that you would have in an aquarium, but there's no glass in between you. Yeah, it was really cool. And honestly, I recommend it for anybody. We didn't have our advanced certification, but they actually allowed us to go down deeper than what we would normally do anyway, because they had a rope to go down on, they had instructors there. And so it was sort of, they called it an adventure dive, which it was.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
You also, let's get back to your location now. Okay, so you're there in Hong Kong, and I was reading that I think you guys have a relatively small place, but yet you've got an amazing view.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
tell me
we
about that.
do. Yeah, so our apartment is 496 square feet. It is a 2-bedroom apartment, which, trying to figure out how that works. So, our bedrooms are, our master bedroom basically fits a queen size bed. And then we have a closet that's sort of built in, but so you can only enter the bed from the one side, and my husband has to crawl in from the bottom of the bed. So, and then our second one is smaller than my mother's walk-in closet. So that's how that works. But yeah, we are on the western side of Hong Kong Island, and we overlook, we can see Lantau Island, which is where the airport is. We can see the South China Sea, and sort of just looking out towards some of the outer lying islands. And we have a sunset view, which is amazing and perfect for the Sunday Sunsets chat on Twitter. I'll plug that.
Oh my God. I love your photos that you put up on Sundays of the sunsets. They're just incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, we're lucky, and every sunset is different. And we've seen some that just light up the entire sky. And, other nights they'll just kind of fade behind the clouds, and then all the clouds turn pink and purple. And
wow.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
So I wanted to ask about your apartment.
Yeah.
With it being that small, and knowing that you're not going to be in Hong Kong like long term, from what I understand, correct? Like this is kind of a temporary stop for a couple of years.
Well, we have no plans to move back, so I guess it's long term in that way. But I'm sure eventually we'll be back in the U.S. or maybe Singapore. Who knows? Or somewhere else.
So here's my question, because you do go on so many travels, and we've kind of been in conversations before on Twitter and such about how you take like souvenirs, or you incorporate some of your travels into your decor. I'm thinking about like Nicolette Orlemans and Culture Trav, and she focuses on that a lot. What do you have in your small apartment that is really important and valuable to you from your travels?
Well, actually, which way? The poster right there is from Laos. And that was something we bought while we lived there, and we pretty much put it up everywhere that we've lived since. So that's something that's easy, and we can hang it up wherever, because all you need is a small wall. We have a tea set that we bought in Bangkok, a really nicely hand-painted tea set that is something that's functional as well as a memory that we have. We actually used to buy many more souvenirs, but now, as you said, with the small apartment, we tend to focus more on just having experiences and photos for the most part, and we don't tend to buy as many souvenirs. And so when we do get something, like I have a fan, actually, that one of those flip out fans that I bought on the way up hiking the Great Wall, mostly because this older lady was following us the whole way. She was fanning me. It was in it was late August, so it was still pretty warm. And yes, I was sweating because we were hiking up this mountain. And so she would stop and she would fan me. So at the end, when we got to the top, I did buy the fan from her because it just felt right, and some water.
Yeah.
So little things like that that come with a memory are really special.
What are some of your favorite places, favorite sites you've seen in that part of the world?
That is really hard. I think they all have special memories. The Great Wall was certainly a highlight for me. It was one of those things that I had heard about since I was a child and didn't know much about Asia. And actually being there on the wall was just, it was the trip of a lifetime, I think, for me. And we had such a great, and even just being at the site was wonderful, but the hike that we did was really a great hike in that we did some of the more, the wall that was still kind of crumbling. And so it was a little more challenging than just going and seeing the wall and being one of many. We did a section that was a lot less visited. And so there were times where it was just me and my husband and our guide on the wall, and that was it. And so that was really special. We visited the Taj Mahal back on my first trip ever to Asia. That was incredible, although extremely overwhelming. We went in August when most people avoid going to that part of India in August because it's quite warm. But again, we were not overwhelmed with other tourists. And so that was something that I really appreciated. So those are kind of the big sites, but even just going to these little villages, this past trip that we took back in January, we went to a small village in Laos, which is kind of off the beaten path for tourists. And so you get a more local experience, and that really was special. And the views and the hiking there were amazing. So
I love that little chimp right there. That's so cute.
So actually, I was going to say,
Orangutan, yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
please do not insult the orangutan. And also, when I saw this picture, I thought to myself, hashtag mood.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite photos, and mostly because, so we went to the orangutan rescue center in Sepalak in Borneo, and sometimes you can walk around the boardwalks and not see any orangutan because it is an open center where they put out food, and they have a place where they rescue orangutan orphans in there. And so that's enclosed, but most of the center is not enclosed. And so it's really to encourage the orangutans, they can come and get food there at certain daily feedings, but they're not restrained. And they hope that they stop coming because that means that then they're surviving on their own in the wild. But so we actually were lucky enough to see two, and my husband was photographing one of them in the trees. And then I looked up and I just saw this guy watching us as we were oohing and ahhing over his buddy down the road there. And then he's just sitting there watching us. And so, my husband turned and snapped this photo. But by the time we sort of walked slowly, because we did have to go that direction, but he eventually got up and went off into the trees. We didn't get too close or anything, but yeah, his expression there was just priceless to me.
He does not look too amused by you both.
My thought was always, look at those idiots. And here I am sitting here looking at him over there.
Yeah.
Well, I know you also like animals. You've got a couple of hobbies, or I don't know if it's your side hustle, but there in Hong Kong, you're also pet sitting.
Yeah, I'm doing a fair amount of pet sitting and dog walking. I'll actually be walking a couple of little dachshunds after this interview. I started it just because I miss having dogs around, and getting on this site. It's one that when we first moved here, needed somebody to watch my cats while we were away. And so I found sitters through this site called Paw Shake. I think there are others like them where they just have a bunch of sitters, and also then you can sign up to be a sitter on the site. And so it's a way of connecting people who love animals and who need help watching them. And so yeah, I found sitters through there, and then I became a sitter, and I've gotten to meet lots of little furry friends throughout Hong Kong, which has been really nice. And so yeah, this year has been a little slower, I would say, because not as many people are traveling, but sometimes as the year has gone, people are starting to do staycations and, kind of get away for the weekend. So I've been doing some dog walking, and it's been nice. Yeah. Nice to have that connection.
To physically move and be there for several years, like, how do you start to build your own sort of, community out there? How do you start to reach out and make friends? Has the culture or language been a barrier at all? Kind of take us through that journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting. I think Hong Kong is great in that respect because it is such a transient population, at least as far as the expats go. And so you have people who are, open to making new friends and are welcoming because, they've done it recently, or yeah, they're just in that sphere where they're used to having people come and go. And so I think you make friends quickly because of that. It also means that you have goodbye parties a lot as people come and go. But yeah, I think it's, there are also some organizations that do international meetups and that sort of thing. So I met some friends through there as well. And even locals go to them, Hong Kongers go, just because it's a place to meet other people who might have similar interests as you. And yeah, I formed some friendships through there, as well as even through just social media and being other travelers who have come to Hong Kong. One of my good friends is from Romania, and she reached out to me and said, let's get coffee. And now we try and do lunch once a week or hikes or something like that. And so it's been, having the travel tribe connection has also been really nice. Yeah.
What was maybe the hardest part about adjusting to life there in Hong Kong, or what surprised you about
Yeah.
living there, or what life would be like there?
I think one of the things I didn't expect was actually, so English is one of the main languages in Hong Kong, just carryover from British days. And I expected, I think, more people to speak it, or for me not to know Cantonese as much as I think I would need to get a job in Hong Kong. That's something that surprised me a little bit, just in the sector that I worked in back in DC. And so that sort of led to my journey of what I like to do here. And that's sort of what led into Becky Exploring and starting the travel blog, since we were doing so much traveling. But yeah, that was one of the things that surprised me. I mean, most people do speak English, but I remember when my mother-in-law came to visit, and we took them around the fish shops, the dried fish shops, which is quite something to see. She wanted to know what everything was, and she kept trying to ask the shop owners, and most of them didn't speak English. And so I tried to guess for her, but there are some pretty interesting things to see along that road. So I couldn't guess what everything was.
I know Adam's going to ask you if you've picked up any Cantonese and if you have any particular favorite phrases. That's one of his favorite questions that I totally agree with.
I wish I could say that I had, but I am so embarrassed to say that I have not really picked up anything. And that's one of the things that has been kind of on my list, but I've never done, mostly because at first we were traveling, and also the whole Cantonese Mandarin debate. Which one do I learn? Cantonese is used here, but Mandarin is mostly in mainland. And so you can get by, I think, with Mandarin more and more in Hong Kong, but it's not as widely used. And And there's a good deal of pride with Cantonese and keeping that identity alive.
So why did you guys move to Hong Kong? What took you over there?
Yeah.
Where'd the interest come from?
So my husband got a job, which is what ultimately took us over here, and he's in finance. And so he told me at one point that we could only live in big major cities. And so that pretty much was Hong Kong and Singapore for Asia. And we knew we wanted to move back to Asia after having lived in Laos because we fell in love with it and wanted to do a lot more traveling. And so he was applying for jobs, and eventually one in Hong Kong worked out. And that's sort of what prompted us to decide, okay, we're just going to do it. Now's the time. So we packed up everything in our house and sold our house and our car and put everything in storage, and off we went.
And how long were you in Laos prior to that?
We lived in Laos for a year and a half, from 2010 to 2011. And we were working for an NGO at that point. It was right after he graduated from grad school, and it's a sort of a volunteer type organization. And so we were over there doing development stuff. And I was working on an exchange program between Laos and North America. And so, it was we fell in love with Laos, and we fell in love with Southeast Asia and some of our travels. Because we were pretty much volunteering, we traveled a lot like locals. And so we had a lot of adventures throughout our time there, and it really gave us the passion for wanting to see more of Asia. And we didn't get outside of our region that much, which is one reason why we thought, okay, well, Hong Kong would be something very, very different, and give us the chance to really explore more of Asia than we had seen while we were living in Laos.
Okay, Becky, well then let's talk about the blog. BeckyExploring.com. Got it pulled up on the screen here. Why did you start this? What's your vision for it? I mean, it's beautiful, but everybody has a different reason why they create these platforms. And you kind of alluded to it a few minutes ago. So answer that question for us. Where did this come from? And what does this mean to you as the author of this platform?
Well, so when we lived in Laos, I did actually have a blog that was mostly for friends and family. And I really enjoyed telling the stories of our different adventures there. And I always had in my mind, if we move abroad again, I'm going to start a blog, and I'm going to really go for it and put it out there for everybody to see. And so when we moved to Hong Kong, I kind of put everything on the back burner for a little bit because I wanted to take kind of a little vacation from work and really enjoy traveling and getting us settled in. And so it took me a little time, but then I slowly started doing research about, how to do a public blog. And we had gone on a few travels already by then. And I really wanted to share more of, I guess, my kind of adventure, which is a lot of outdoor things, a lot of wandering through cities. Because even if you're in a city, there's always a lot of outdoor activities that you can do, and parks to discover, and street art, which I'm a big fan of. And so I wanted to do more itineraries like that. And so that prompted me to start the blog. And I've really enjoyed learning along the way. I think being part of the travel tribe on Twitter and getting to read other people's blogs has been fantastic. Everybody's been so welcoming, and it's been quite the journey. I think I'm coming up on 2 years now, which it doesn't seem like that long. But I'm still learning every day.
What have you learned the most about yourself, I think, through all this? Because I know when we've talked to other folks before, as they start writing the blog, it's almost like it's almost therapeutic in a certain way. Like you have a way to also discover within yourself. What is something that you've learned about Becky?
Yeah, I think I didn't realize just how much of an outdoor person I was until I started writing it. When I kind of went into it and I thought, I don't know what my niche is, and I'm gonna start writing and I'm gonna see what happens. And the more I started looking at what I was writing and realizing I really don't go to very many museums. I tend to just wander the streets, and I'm really happiest when I'm outside in nature. And so I've sort of taken it in a different direction, especially this year, and really started to focus more on outdoors and getting myself outside and making sure I have that time. I think that this year in particular has shown me that that's where I am happiest. And that's where sort of my passion lies, is getting outside and doing these different adventures, whether it's scuba diving or being on boats, or just wandering through the streets and finding different parks and cities. And yeah, I think that's mostly what I've learned through it, as well as that writing is a lot harder than I remember it being.
Yeah.
I sit down, I think I get so much in my head that I write it all out in my head before I actually start typing, and it takes me so much longer. So that's something I'm still working on. Yeah.
Becky, two questions. Where did you grow up, and what are some of your favorite national parks in the U.S.?
So I grew up in Pennsylvania, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Amish country. And when I was younger, we started going to national parks out west, and I really enjoyed that experience because it's so different from Lancaster. I mean, we have some mountains on the East Coast, but the mountains and the scenery and just the vibe of some of the parks out west, like Yellowstone and Yosemite and Lassen National Parks, are the first ones that I ever went to in California. And the hiking that we did there, it was just a whole new level, and a lot more challenging than I had been used to on the East Coast. And those are some of my favorite memories because my dad and I really shared that passion for hiking. And so on each family vacation, we would set aside a day for him and me to actually do a long hike. And we tried to get one with a challenging element to it. And so I remember on one of our hikes, we were holding on to a rope on the side of a very rocky mountain and kind of crawling across the gravelly edge. And then, I'm trying to take pictures as it goes. Of course, now they're all in photo albums back at home because that was in the time of film. But I got back, and when I got the film developed and showed my mom exactly what we did, she was just like, "Oh my gosh, so glad I didn't know that you were doing that at the time."
I love how you're like sharing all these adventures about swimming with sharks and the wild rides on the bus with the chickens and being dropped off on the side of the road and holding on to a rope. And you're so calm. You're so calm as you just discuss all this. Are you normally like good under pressure? Do you consider yourself to be like that calm presence during all of these events?
I think it really depends. I think I have a lot more anxiety about them leading up to them, but then once they're happening, it's like something washes over me and I think, okay, I can do this. But yeah, there are certainly times throughout them when I think I have the, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, in my head. But, I just try and keep calm in my center and carry on. Definitely the sharks. As we approached them and I could see them swimming around ahead of me, and the instructors are always so excited when you see sharks and they want to get you as close as possible. So he grabs my arm and swims me over there. I'm like, no, I'm good behind the first line of people back here. Let them eat them first and I'll be good back here. You can't communicate any of that underwater. So he dragged me right up there, front and center. But I always have in the back of my mind, I'm probably freaking out a little bit, but try and stay calm because panicking doesn't really help. Yeah.
Well, here we are on Wander to the Edge with another great guest that we've had the opportunity to chat with and get to know. Becky, it's super easy to talk to you. You're great to talk with, great stories, and I think we could talk all afternoon. But can't do it because I don't have rollover minutes. So um, we do need to tell everybody, though, how to get in touch with you. Okay. So Becky you can look her up at BeckyExploring.com. That's BeckyExploring.com. And if you haven't already connected with her, I know many of you have, but you'll find her on Instagram and Twitter, Becky Exploring, Becky Exploring. And then over on Facebook as Becky Explores, Becky Explores, you'll find her there. And again, we were showing a couple of minutes ago, we were showing the images or the pages from the blog, and there's a lot there. She's talking about how difficult it is to write and all of this, but I look at that and you have done a lot of work. There's a lot of work. You've written a lot. You've taken a lot of great pictures, and I know how much work that is. That's a lot of work. So you've done super, super well at it, and fascinating story. Well, you should close the show though by telling us one of your other favorite trips or locations that's not the U.S., maybe not in the location where you're at now there in Hong Kong and in Asia. I know you've also traveled in some other parts. What's another great location that you'd recommend we check out?
Well, my first country that I ever visited outside the US was Spain, and it still has a really special place in my heart. It's a country that I just love so much for the culture and the food and the people. And it's still, I think if I could visit more often, I would probably go back once a year because I just love it so much. I've traveled around. The first time I took a 10-day trip with a high school class. And we started in Barcelona, went down south to Granada, Sevilla, Cordoba, and then back up to Madrid. And it's just still one of my top favorite places, I would say, in the world.
I just want to sit here and be like, Becky, tell us another story. But
she's good at it, but she also has to walk the dogs.
Yes.
And,
but I know that we can also go to BeckyExploring.com to read more of the stories, see more of the pictures, all the different platforms that Adam put up on the screen. So we'll definitely continue to follow and just see where your next adventure is.
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun to be here and to get to know you both better. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're awesome, and it was totally fun to talk to. So tell your husband we said hello. Enjoy your Saturday. Take good care of those the pups over there, the dogs, and enjoy that view. And we look forward to getting to know you more and connecting more and more with you, and letting the travel tribe, those who don't already know you, they'll be, I'm sure after today, connecting with you. So thanks so much for your time. And with that, I think Zan should probably wrap up the show. I don't know. What do you think?
This is me wrapping up the show. And Becky, thank you. And thanks to everyone who joined us again. Friends Talking Travel right here on Wander to the Edge.